measure does not offer any resistance in the matchup.
Well, Joe is one of the very best Miracle players out there, and if anyone can get by this difficult matchup, it is certainly him. He does have his typical creatures here in 3 Vendilion Click, a Snapcaster Mage, and 8 Venser Shaper Savant. Got the main deck, Pyroblast and Elemental Blast as well, but the jig is immediately up as here's a few copies of Cloud Post to get things started. Lossett does have a copy of Flooded Strand. He just drew another one, and he'll have to work his way through this.
On that turn 1 Cloud Post, you can see Joe raises eyebrows a little bit. He knows how bad this matchup is.
Taking a look at Joe's deck list here, not a lot has changed. I didn't know if he'd make any kind of crazy adaptations in response to Treasure Cruise being out there, or if we'd see Dig Through Time, but you're not going to find those cards here. He will sacrifice his Flooded Strand to search up a Tundra, and it looks like it might be time to cast a Sensei's Divining Top. So that's in, and Joe will finish shuffling his deck. Dylan draws another copy of Cloud Post, so mana, well, that's easy. Here's 2 of it. There's an Expedition map, so 1 mana floating right now. See what else he wants to do on this turn.
Expedition map is very dangerous for this deck because it doesn't just tutor for basics, it tutors for anything. And this deck has a huge base of powerful non-basic lands to go find.
And there are a lot of 1-ofs actually in Dylan's deck list.
Yeah, so the 1-ofs in Dylan's list here, this is more than you see in the typical 12-post list. A Caracas, a Forest, a Wooded Foothills, a Cavernous Holes, an Eye of Ugin, an Island, a Bajuka Bog, a Thespian Sage, a Scalding Tarn, a Dark Depths, a Tabernacle, a Pendrel Vale, and a Dryad Arbor. So a lot of bullets to go get. Some of these are single basic lands or, you know, in the case of Dryad Arbor, a bullet off of fetch lands, but the point is Expedition map adds a lot of versatility to this deck.
I do like the use of Cavernous Holes. Makes Primeval Titan uncounterable. I think that's the big one.
4 Primeval Titans in this list. Also 2 copies of Trinket Mage, which allows it to get either Expedition map, Sensei's Divining Top, or Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle in the deck primarily to fight Wasteland, but I'm sure if Dylan draws it here, he'll be happy to name Sensei's Divining Top.
Absolutely. And Joe going to shuffle up here. Get himself a Volcanic Island with a Flooded Strand.
And even from this position, Dylan's pretty close to being able to use Expedition map to go get Eye of Ugin and start getting Eldrazi.
Yep.
He has so much mana already, he has 9.
Couple copies of Brainstorm there. He's going to draw 1 of them. He's also got a Jace the Mind Sculptor that he's looking at as well. There's Nerd Mesa.
And unlike many decks that are trying to treat Emrakul into play, Joe can't answer it with, you know, a Caracas or a Jace or an Oblivion Ring style effect. You know, you can go to these kind of solutions, but Dylan will be casting it, which makes it an entirely different sort of problem.
There's the Eye of Ugin. I think Dylan with a bit of a smile on his face. He knows just how good this matchup is for him.
You can also get an idea of why Counterbalance is not a great formula for fighting this deck.
Ah, yeah, that probably makes a little bit of sense.
If Joe gets it very early on the play, it can do some things, but at this stage, the ship has sailed. And there is Candelabra, so I think that Dylan may be able to just cast Emrakul this turn.
We are having a ball. There's definitely some fun math involved with the Candelabra and a few copies of Cloud Post. So first things first, there's Eye of Ugin and just pass the turn back.
I guess no rush. Why bother trying to resolve anything, you know?
I mean, Joe's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Here's a Brainstorm.
We're just playing our lands, you know? Yours are dual lands, mine are Mishra's Workshops. They can cast anything, and eventually we'll see whose stuff is better.
We'll both definitely cast our spells.
Yeah, we'll both cast our spells, you know?
Joe going to resolve a Brainstorm here. Of course, he is qualified for our Players' Championship in the end of the year. Season 3 points leader. Can't say he didn't earn it. He traveled like crazy.
Yes.
Gonna spin the top now. Leave it on top. Sacrifice the Arid Mesa. Go searching for a land. Clear away those 3 cards so he can take a better look here with his Sensei's Divining Top. A man who loves miracles.
Loves it. Although Joe's a very active streamer.
Yep.
And often streams all sorts of random legacy decks. But when it comes to physical tournaments, I can't remember the last time I saw him playing something other than Miracles.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day where he takes the world by surprise and tries something else out. Don't know when that'll be, but I imagine it's going to happen sometime soon.
It's worth a lot of free wins. People would keep all sorts of hands against him game 1 that would not be good for the matchup.
Yeah.
If he was playing something completely different than Miracles.
He would take everyone by surprise. It would be a lot of fun to watch, I think. It's time to search with the Eye of Ugin. It could be any Eldrazi.
It's a one of in this deck, but it is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I mean, you can
It's
search for it.
the win condition, basically.
You can crop rotate for it. You can go get Ulamog,
Ooh.
the big guy. 10/10 comes into play. When you cast it, it destroys a permanent. It doesn't even have to resolve. Just when you cast it.
Matt Place was in charge of Rise of Eldrazi.
Really?
And he hates when big stuff gets countered, so a lot of these creatures have anti-counterspell clauses of some sort or another.
I like it.
when you cast this trigger. Hey, you got to 11 mana. Let this thing at least do something, you know?
Draw step, Vendilion click. You see Dylan's hand.
Oh boy.
There's a Dark Depths, a Primeval Titan, a Candelabra, a Crop Rotation, another copy of Cloud Post, a Cyclonic Rift, and Ulamog. Decisions, one would say.
So the Cloud Post brings Dylan up to 13 mana, and the Candelabra is plus 11, which is 24 mana, which I believe allows him to Eye of Ugin and cast Emrakul this turn. Okay, and I think Joe did the same math.
And that's going to do it. Dylan Fox going to win game number 1 here over Joe Lossett. 12 post, up a game here over Miracles. It's just that easy. Play some land, search up an Ulamog, and that should do it.
We're not trying to make Joe look bad, you know?
He was mean to us.
He was mean.
Unnecessarily mean.
I didn't know. I honestly did not know there was 12 posts going in.
I didn't know either. And then, look what happened. Let this be a lesson, everyone at home. Just be nice.
Yeah,
Not even the coverage people. Just be nice, period.
right. Who knows what the matchup could have been if you were more polite. Could have been anything. Now this is happening, Joe.
Take a look at the sideboard here. As Joe does have a nasty one in the board here in Blood Moon. That's a one of. He also has a Grafdigger's Cage, 2 copies of Rest in Peace, a Pithy Needle, 2 Flusterstorm, another Red Blast, another Pyroblast, 2 Misdirection, a Venser, a Wear Tear, a Supreme Verdict, and an Ithid Static Caster. All the 1s and 2 ofs.
So there's a couple cards I like here. I like bringing in the Blood Moon. I think bring in the Red Blast and Pyroblast. I don't know if he wants to go that far. There's some blue cards, but they're not really the essential elements. I think the Pithy Needle is fine to bring in here. There's a variety of cards. Expedition Map. He can name Eye of Ugin in certain spots. But other than that, there's not a lot of exciting stuff here.
Give me a Wear Tear.
You want to Wear Tear?
I just want to be able to shatter Needle or Candelabra.
Okay.
You know, there are targets. They're not great, but I think that there are targets, and he's got enough bad cards that he can board those in.
That's true. He does have some flexibility because he has a lot of cards that don't do very much here. So on Dylan's side, there's 3 copies of Show and Tell, a Swan Song, a Venser of his own, a Mindbreak Trap, 2 Elven Grasses, a Glacial Chasm, a Chalice of the Void, a Gadok, a Relic of Progenitus, an Oblivion Stone, a Repeal, and a Pithy Needle. I am pretty happy to present the same 60. I think that bringing in the Swan Song is fine, and maybe the Venser, but I would not do too much here if I was Dylan.
It is a good matchup from Matt.
Very solid matchup. No reason to do anything.
Players will shuffle up for game number 2, and we will talk about Cardboard Crack, now available, Star City Games.
Everyone's favorite Magic the Gathering black and white stick figure cartoon, now available in book form. We have 2 paperback books, both available for $12.99 a piece. StarCityGames.com/cardboardcrack for more information. This Twitter handle also has the approval of Cedric Phillips, who is pretty stingy with the people he elects to follow.
Not a lot of follows.
That is high praise.
Plus, look at the mouth on that guy. I like the mouth and the arms.
Just excited at a good deal.
I think he should probably go to the gym a little more.
Yes, he is carrying a little extra weight, not a lot of definition in the arms. The shoulders are lacking. Could use a weightlifting regimen. That is true.
Though I will say, a good haircut.
Yes, good haircut.
It'll be game number 2 here shortly between 12 Post and Miracles. Not a great matchup for Joe. I know that Joe already beat Dredge once today, which is an okay matchup for him.
Well, I remember Joe playing against Dredge, where coming into the match, I was thinking, okay, well, Joe just loses game 1, and then games 2 and 3, he has Rest in Peace and maybe some other tools, and there'll be some games. But Joe was able to just shuck and jive his way through game 1 and ended up decking the Dredge player, and then won game 2 off of Rest in Peace.
He can get creative with the Miracles deck. It does a lot more than you think it does. That's why I like it.
Surprising that he was able to beat Dredge with no Graveyard Hate game 1. Very few decks can do that, but Joe was able to just weave enough Terminuses to the top of his deck at various points and cast enough Swords of Plowshares that he was able to force a win through decking game 1.
I do wonder if we'll ever see the addition of Dig Through Time in this deck from Joe. I expected, again, to see some changes in the deck, given the new cards from Concept Arc here. And Joe is one of the players who will adopt new cards and give them a try more than most people will.
The thing is, the power of this deck, in my opinion, is all about, floating cards around the top of the deck and manipulating things that way. There's very few cards in this deck that really matters that you're putting them in your hand. That's not really what the deck's about. So I understand there's some value to selection, and being able to find your key cards is nice, but I suspect Dig Through Time isn't particularly good at miracles.
Scalding Tarn is going to start things off for game number 2. This is a Glimmer Post into a Candelabra of Tawnos. I have a feeling that that'll be okay. That one's not too threatening to start. It can get ugly, of course, but...
Well, Candelabra serves a couple of roles here. One is it does allow this deck to do some pretty explosive stuff once it has a bunch of colorless mana to play. The other nice thing that it does is the deck struggles to get to double green sometimes because it's trying to search up so many colorless lands. So Candelabra can serve as a mana fixer too to cast your Primeval Titan. You have one green source in play, you generate a lot of colorless mana, untap your forest, generate your second green, and then you can cast Primeval Titan.
Flooded Strand is the second land here for Lossett. And he will sacrifice both of those. It's time to go searching. One white bordered island. Let's make it 2.
And it's funny because I played Magic at a time where there's basically nothing to do with Candelabra when it first got printed. And I looked at that card and I'm like, I guess this is a really expensive mana fixer because you can kind of like float around colored mana and fix it that way. And it's fun to watch a deck in Legacy that is doing exactly that 20 years later.
Yeah. Maybe that was its original intention.
I think it's just, this is just a weird design. That's all this is. I don't think there is a lot of culling or, sort of file reviewing of early Magic files. I think most of the designs were, okay, this is flavorful and this is a card that can exist, so we'll print it.
Sensei Top, maybe.
Ooh.
We're a little scared.
Some blind reveal stuff.
Well, you've seen the blind reveal get it done plenty of times here on the Open Series. Going to untap. So 2 mana. Now a top. Trigger. Miss. Though, that's an important card.
Yes. Counterspell is nice, but again, if Dylan's able to win the fight over the lands, then Joe's counterspells are worth very little. If Joe's able to keep Dylan off of generating a ton of mana, then counterspell can be a very significant card.
And spin the top here as you did have 1 mana floating. There are 2 locusts in play for Cloud Post. Of course, Glimmer Post is 1 as well. So Fox trying to figure out just how he wants to set those cards back on top of his deck. There's another Cloud Post, a Brainstorm, and a Cavern of Souls are the 3 cards that he's looking at.
3 pretty juicy ones.
Not bad. And we'll pass the turn back.
Those lands mean that Dylan can get to Primeval Titan pretty quickly this game. And an uncounterable Primeval Titan at that.
Let's set with a mountain here. Looks like that'll be the land that he plays. You can see his hand. He's got a Fluster Storm, a Counterspell, Force of Will. Pretty good cards there. Naked Counterbalance.
But these may not provide much defense against what Dylan's up to this game.
So it'll just pass the turn back. So Fox will draw. Picks up his copy of Cavern. He knew that was coming. Misty Rainforest going to come down. And just pass the turn back. Lissette's going to draw. A copy of Snapcaster Mage. That might be the clock he was looking for. Here's a basic Plains.
Well, he can't, unless he just wants to play a 2/1 flash creature.
Well, not doing much better. At least not at this point. Don't know if his card like Jace. I think if he had Jace, he may have slammed it down by now. It does have a copy of Pithing Needle. He might be considering needling the top.
I can see him wanting to needle the Candelabra too. It generates so much mana.
Yeah. He's only got 1 of those needles in his sideboard, so he has drawn it. He's got to make the most of it. Here is the needle. And we will let you know what is named after it does make its way into play, which it will do.
It's one of those spots where Dylan can draw a card with the top, and if Joe names Candelabra, he can draw the top next turn. And if Joe names Sensei's Divine top, well, then he can shuffle away with his Misty Rainforest. So pretty good spot here for Dylan.
He's going to sacrifice the Misty Rainforest right away, not wasting any time.
Okay.
So maybe now it just will be Candelabra. There's a tropical island.
Seems very likely now. There's no threat of Divine top anymore. And I'm sure Joe would like to draw his own Divine top and have that be live. So I would have to assume this is being put on Candelabra.
Dylan is making his way towards Primeval Titan mana, though. That is the big problem. Looks like Neil's going to slide in now. Well, We'll see what this does name in just a moment. And Joe's going to go with Eye of Ugin.
Okay.
Does not care about the Candelabra.
Well, Eye of Ugin is the easiest route because that allows Primeval Titan to find a win.
The Cloud Post, and just a passing of the turn. Lossett will draw a card. Didn't get a great look. It looks like it's a copy of Red Elemental Blast. No land, just kick it back over to Fox, who will draw. Got a lot of mana from those Cloud Posts. Picks up a copy of Brainstorm. See a Misty Rainforest there as well in his hand. So he does have a fetch land to make it a pretty good one. Also has a copy of Vesuva, too.
Looks like a Thespian Stage.
Yeah, could be working his way towards Dark Depths. This will be 3 mana. One colorless floating. This is a copy of Trinket Mage. First things first, take a look at Counterbalance. Copy of Spell Pierce. That's not going to get the job done.
Against this or anything else.
Yeah. Here's Red Elemental Blast. That will take care of that. Might be the best use of Red Blast that Joe has in the matchup.
Well, I think Joe also wants to be proactive about casting any spell at all because he wants to get in a position where he can Snapcaster something and start attacking.
Thespian Stage going to come in. And pass the turn back. For Lossett, we know what he's drawing. It's a copy of Spell Pierce. Not a useful one. I guess the best use of that is a blue card to remove the Force of Will.
Yeah.
Fox is going to activate Thespian Stage and copy a Cloud Post here. More mana. So a quick untap and a draw. Looks like Primeval Titan is what he's found. There's Cavernous Souls. I believe he would be selecting Giant.
But keep in mind the needle is on Eye of Ugin, so this is not a guaranteed win.
Yep.
This is incredibly bad for Joe, but it is not game over.
It's time to search. Dark Depths. Makes things a little worse.
Sure. I mean, the Dark Depths route is a little challenging to go through against Joe because, you know, he can answer just a big creature in a variety of ways, but it does put pressure on him to have it right away. And if Joe does have an answer, well, it means that Primeval Titan's probably running unchecked.
Yeah. Eye of Ugin, the other card that was searched up there. Thespian Stage, currently a copy of Cloud Post, but can become a copy of something else later.
Yep.
Also, it's very realistic for you to tick down the Dark Depths in this matchup.
Oh, that's true. He can actually do it in like a turn or two.
Yeah, it's actually not very hard at all. Here's a Brainstorm. Take a look at a couple of cards here. See if Joe can find something. Vendilion Click is one of the cards that he's found.
I had not considered that he can just not only do it, but do it very, very quickly.
Yeah, he can go manual in very simple fashion. And Treat the Angels among the cards Joe has found here. Looks like he's ready to set a couple back. There's an island. Trying to figure a way out of this very bad spot. Yep, nothing doing. That is going to do it. Dylan Fox going to win this match over Joe Lossett. 2 games to 0. It is a horrible matchup here for Joe. 12 Post gets the job done.
For better or for worse, this is an element of legacy. There's so many decks. The card pool is so big. The decks are so powerful that you're going to run into asymmetrical warfare over the course of the tournament. I think that's the reason that a lot of people gravitate towards Delver strategies, for example. There's a sense of you can play against everything, even if some of your matchups are pretty bad. And even for a deck like Miracles, there are going to be some decks in the room where what you're doing is just nonsense in the matchup, and 12 Post, definitely the biggest example of that.
Yeah. You know, that deck does really prey on Miracles and some other decks out there. And unfortunately for Lossett, it's just a horrible, horrible matchup for him. And there's really not much he can do to overcome it. And a Dylan's draw that game wasn't very good to me. It was, you know, fine, a reasonable draw, resolve a Primeval Titan. All of a sudden, you have to try to beat Titan plus Dark Depths plus Thespian Stage. And that's just too much for Joe to overcome. Plus,